How a 9 foolish-second decision ruined my home. I had a good life, a loving husband, 3 beautiful children, and 8 years of peace I thought would last forever. My husband was everything a woman could ask for: caring, hardworking, and loyal. But one night, everything changed. It started with a bad dream and a single mistake. I picked up his phone at 1 a.m. to turn off his alarm. Then curiosity whispered to me, check his WhatsApp. In just 9 seconds, I saw a woman's name, a few flirty words, and my heart broke. I didn't check the date, didn't think, didn't breathe, I just let anger and pride take over. Instead of talking to him, I decided to get revenge. I slept with my ex, thinking it would make me feel better. But fate was cruel. My husband was at the same hotel for a business meeting. He caught me walking out of the room with another man. Will he forgive me? The family meeting. The next morning, I woke up on my sister's couch. My head was pounding, and my heart felt heavier than my body. I had barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my husband's face, those eyes full of quiet pain. My phone kept buzzing, but I couldn't bear to look. I knew what the messages would be: shame, judgment, whispers from relatives who had already heard the news. In our town, secrets travel faster than harmattan wind. By noon, my elder brother called. His voice was tight, controlled. Nkechi, come home. They've called a family meeting. My stomach twisted. I already knew what it was about. In Nigeria, when a marriage breaks, it never breaks quietly. The families must gather, the elders must talk, and the woman, especially the woman, must explain herself. When I entered my husband's family compound, everyone was already there. His uncles, aunties, his mother, even our pastor. My husband sat at one corner, dressed neatly as always, but his eyes were tired, like he hadn't slept either. I wanted to run to him, fall at his feet, beg him again, but my brother's grip on my arm stopped me. Hold yourself, he whispered. The meeting began with prayers, as if the heavens would cleanse the shame that hung over us. Then my father-in-law spoke first, his voice deep and calm but heavy with disappointment. We raised this man to be a husband, not a fool. My daughter, what exactly happened? I tried to speak, but my voice cracked. I started crying. Between sobs, I said, I made a mistake. I thought he cheated on me, and I wanted to get revenge. I didn't mean for it to happen. Please, I was angry. I'm sorry. My words sounded hollow, even to me. My husband's mother shook her head slowly, tears in her eyes. Then they turned to my husband. My son, talk to your wife. Can this be fixed? One uncle asked. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he looked at everyone and said softly, please, help me ask my wife what I did wrong to deserve this. Have I not been there for her? What did I do to make her sleep with another man? Those words cut through me like fire. I broke down, crying uncontrollably. I wanted to vanish. But in desperation, I said, but he cheated first. I saw it with my eyes, on his WhatsApp. The room fell silent. Everyone turned to him. Calmly, without anger, he pulled his phone from his pocket and handed it to me. Show them, he said quietly. With trembling hands, I opened the chat. The same messages that had burned my heart the night I found them. But as I scrolled up, something hit me, something I had never noticed before. The date. The messages were from 2013. That was years before we even met. I froze. My breath caught. I scrolled again, hoping I was wrong, but no, it was there. Time-stamped truth. Those messages were ghosts from a life he lived long before me. The room was silent. You could hear the sound of my shame dropping like stones to the floor. My brother's hand slipped from my arm. My mother's eyes filled with tears. Even my father couldn't look at me. I wanted to explain, to say something, but there were no words left. My husband just looked at me one last time and said, "You destroyed what we built over something that didn't even exist." That was the last time I ever saw him speak in front of me. When the meeting ended, I didn't wait for anyone to tell me what to do. I walked out before the final prayers, before anyone could offer pity or advice. I didn't deserve sympathy. My legs were weak, but somehow, I found myself standing outside my old house, the one that once smelled of love, cooking oil, and laughter. Now it felt like a grave. The gate creaked as I pushed it open. The compound was quiet, too quiet. I half expected my children to run out, shouting "Mommy," the way they always did. But they didn't. The silence told me everything. My husband had already taken them to his mother's place. That thought broke me. I wasn't just losing my husband, I was losing my babies too. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The air was heavy with memories. The sofa still had my favorite wrapper thrown over it. My husband's slippers were beside the door, the way he always left them. I touched them gently, my tears dripping onto the floor. Every object in that house seemed to whisper a story, our laughter, our arguments, the nights we stayed up dreaming about our future. I walked into our bedroom and stood by the mirror. The woman staring back at me didn't look like me anymore. Her eyes were swollen, her skin pale, her lips trembling. I touched my reflection and whispered, "You did this." I remembered all the nights I had doubted him, the way I had let anger and pride poison my heart. One small suspicion had become a wildfire. As I packed my clothes into a bag, I found his old notes, the ones he used to leave for me every morning before work. One said, "My queen, remember to smile today." Another said, "Thank you for giving me a reason to come home every night." I held those papers to my chest and cried like a child. At that moment, I realized something cruel about life. You never know the true weight of peace until you destroy it yourself. I had peace, I had love, I had respect. But because of 9 foolish seconds, I threw it all away. I sat on the bed and looked around the room one last time. I could still smell his cologne on the pillow. My mind replayed the morning he asked me, "Are you okay?" and how I lied, saying I was fine. If only I had spoken then. If only I had trusted him. If only I had checked the date on that message. I packed everything slowly, my dresses, my memories, my regrets. When I walked out of the house, I didn't lock the door. I couldn't. That home no longer belonged to me. It belonged to the woman I used to be, the wife who once had it all. As I stepped into the street, the afternoon sun was harsh, but it didn't burn as much as the shame inside me. People stared. Some whispered. But I kept walking. I had no destination. Just my bag, my tears, and a hole in my heart. I didn't know where I was going next. All I knew was that I was now a stranger to the life I once lived. That night, I found myself sleeping on my sister's couch again, hugging my bag like it was all I had left. In a way, it was. And as I drifted into a restless sleep, one thought echoed in my head: some mistakes don't just ruin your life, they erase the person you used to be. 3 days passed before I saw my children again. Those 3 days felt longer than the 8 years I had spent as a wife and mother. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't breathe without feeling the hole my mistake had torn through me. My sister tried to comfort me, saying, "Maybe he'll forgive you with time," but deep down, I knew the truth: forgiveness doesn't always mean return. On the 4th morning, my husband's younger brother called. His voice was low, cautious. "Your kids have been asking for you. You can come by, but don't stay long." My heart leaped and broke at the same time. I thanked him, even though my throat was too tight to speak. I wore a simple dress, tied my hair back, and took the long walk to my mother-in-law's house. When I arrived, I could hear their voices from inside, my children laughing, playing, arguing over toys like they always did. That sound almost stopped my heart. I stood by the gate, shaking, afraid to go in. But before I could knock, the door opened and my eldest, Chidubem, saw me. He froze for a second, his face lighting up. "Mommy," he shouted, running toward me. I dropped to my knees, holding him tight as tears poured down my face. The two younger ones joined us, all hugging me at once. "Mommy, where have you been?" my little girl asked, her innocent eyes wide with worry. I couldn't answer. How could I explain to them that I wasn't gone, I was thrown out? That I had destroyed our family myself? I just smiled weakly and said, "Mommy missed you so much." Inside, the atmosphere changed. My mother-in-law came out slowly, her wrapper tied tightly, her eyes cold but not cruel. "You can stay a few minutes," she said quietly. "They missed you." She didn't look at me again. I understood why. I had broken her son's heart. No mother forgives that easily. I sat with the kids in the living room, pretending everything was fine. They showed me their drawings, their homework, their toys. I laughed with them, but each laugh stabbed me inside. My youngest kept climbing onto my lap, touching my face. "Mommy, why are you crying?" she asked, wiping my tears with her tiny hands. I lied again. "It's just the dust in my eyes." Then, my eldest son said something that nearly finished me. He asked, "Mommy, are you and Daddy fighting again?" I looked at him, at his worried little face, too young to understand betrayal, too old to believe lies. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Finally, I whispered, "Mommy made a big mistake." He looked down, confused, then hugged me even tighter. A few minutes later, my husband came out from the backyard. The air went still. The children ran to him, calling a daddy, and showing him the picture they had drawn, a picture of the five of us holding hands. He smiled weakly at them, but when his eyes met mine, that smile vanished. He didn't say a word to me. Not one. He just looked at me with the kind of silence that speaks louder than shouting ever could. Then, gently, he told the children, "Say goodbye to Mommy. She has to go now." They protested, holding my dress, crying. My hands trembled as I kissed each of them goodbye. My husband stood by the door, his expression unreadable. When I turned to leave, my little girl ran after me, shouting, "Mommy, when are you coming home?" I stopped. I wanted to say, "Soon," but I knew I couldn't lie again. I turned, smiled through my tears, and said softly, "Be good for Daddy." Then I walked away, each step heavier than the last, their cries echoing behind me like a song I would never hear again. That night, I realized something crueler than pain. The hardest part of losing everything isn't the silence, it's knowing your children will grow up remembering you as the one who left. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months, but time did nothing to heal me. Every morning, I woke up wishing it was a bad dream. Every night, I prayed to sleep and not wake up. My sister tried to keep me busy, to help me forget, but how do you forget the sound of your children's laughter? How do you erase a man's face when it's printed on your soul? I started working in a small boutique near the market, folding clothes for women who complained about husbands that didn't buy them enough gifts. I wanted to tell them, "You're lucky to still have yours." But I stayed quiet. Nobody needed to know the story of the woman who ruined her own home. People still whispered when they saw me. In our community, once your marriage fails, you become a cautionary tale. Every time I passed by my old street, I slowed down. Sometimes I saw my husband driving out with the kids, all dressed neatly, smiling, laughing. I would hide behind a shop store, just to catch a glimpse. The sight of them happy without me broke me and healed me at the same time. I was glad they were okay, but it reminded me that I was no longer part of that world. One day, I gathered the courage to write him a letter. I spent the whole night pouring my soul onto paper. I don't expect forgiveness, but I need you to know I'm sorry. You were a good man. The best. I let my fear turn into pride, and my pride turned into sin. I destroyed the home we built, and now I live with the ashes. I only pray that someday, you remember the good years, not my mistake. I sealed the letter and dropped it at his office reception, not knowing if he would ever read it. Days passed, then weeks, no response. Maybe he tore it, maybe he read it and cried, or maybe he just threw it away. I'll never know. But writing it gave me peace, even if it was small. Still, the guilt stayed. Every time I saw a happy couple holding hands, I remembered the nights my husband held me close after long days. Every time I saw a child running to hug their mother, I felt the ache of my own children's arms that no longer reached for me. I had traded everything real for a moment of foolish revenge. Sometimes I dream of him. In my dream, we are back in our living room, laughing as the kids run around. Then suddenly, he fades, the room darkens, and I'm left alone, screaming his name. That's when I always wake up, covered in tears. People say time heals, but I think time just teaches you how to live with pain. I learned to smile again, but it was never the same. Behind every laugh was a shadow, a reminder of what I lost. Now, when I see women checking their husbands' phones or suspecting things that aren't there, I stop them. I tell them my story, not for sympathy, but as a warning. Because I know now that curiosity can kill love faster than lies ever could. It took me 8 years to build my marriage, and only 9 seconds to destroy it. Those 9 seconds replay in my mind like a curse. And every time they do, I whisper to myself, if only I had trusted love more than my fears. It's been almost 2 years now since that night, 2 long years of silence, healing, and reflection. I live in a small apartment now, alone but alive. The pain has softened, like an old scar that no longer bleeds but never fades. I no longer wake up crying, but I still wake up remembering. Some memories don't die, they just learn to live quietly inside you. I've learned that healing doesn't mean getting everything back. Sometimes, healing means learning to live without what you lost, and forgiving yourself for the person you were when you didn't know better. I stopped blaming him, and I stopped blaming fate. The truth is, I destroyed something beautiful because I let suspicion sit where trust should have been. One evening, I was at the market when I saw him again, my husband. He was buying fruit, laughing softly as our youngest tugged at his hand. I froze, hiding behind the store, just watching. He looked happy. Peaceful. Then, as if he felt my eyes on him, he turned. For a moment, our gazes met. He didn't look angry. He didn't look cold. He just looked sad. Then he gave me a small nod, almost like a silent goodbye, before turning back to his daughter. That one gesture told me everything. He had moved on, but he hadn't forgotten. I went home that day and cried, not from pain this time, but from release. I realized I didn't want him to suffer anymore. I wanted him to be happy, even if it wasn't with me. That's how I knew I was finally healing. Now, I spend my days writing stories, real stories, like mine, for women and men who think love is something they can test, or revenge is a cure for pain. I tell them, trust is like glass, once it's broken, you can glue it back, but the cracks will always show. The moral of my story is simple but hard to learn. Never let anger make decisions that love should handle. Never let pride speak when patience can save you. And never assume the worst without knowing the truth, because sometimes, what you think you see is only a shadow of the past, not the reality in front of you. If I could go back, I wouldn't open that phone. I would wake my husband, ask him calmly, and listen. Because sometimes, one question can save what 1,000 assumptions can destroy. I may never get back the life I lost, but I found something else in return, wisdom. Painful, but real. I've learned that the strongest people are not those who never fall, but those who survive the fall and rise again, carrying their lessons with them. So, if you're listening to my story, let it be a warning and a comfort. Love is fragile, but it's also worth protecting. Don't let temporary emotions make permanent scars. Don't let 9 seconds of weakness erase years of love. Because sometimes, the cost of a mistake isn't measured in tears, it's measured in time, in silence, and in the faces you may never hold again. If this story touched your heart, don't just scroll away. Some mistakes can't be undone, but maybe someone out there can still learn from mine. So please, broken heart, leave a comment below. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Thumbs up like this video if you believe trust is more fragile than love. Bell, subscribe to African Folktales by Irene for more real, emotional stories that touch the soul. Because every story has a lesson. And sometimes, listening to one can save you from making the same mistake.